Hi everyone, greetings. Alistair's post inspired me again, his most recent post. So one of the principles of the Tao of Leadership is that in order to do good work, then you must take good care of yourself. And I know that this has been a life lesson for me and has already been mentioned by Jess and others in the group. And so I wanted to devote a little bit of time and attention to this issue. So, as marginalized people, then there are particular challenges, both practical and emotional, to good self care. That so many of us are empaths and healers in this group complicates that dynamic even more. And that so many of us are passionately engaged in social justice work makes it even more challenging. And so I'll just ask you, how's your self care? Do you find it hard to respect your own limits? How much are you living in crisis? Do you find that your commitments to yourself are what tend to fall off the table time and time again? So we have really terrible role modeling around what healthy self care looks like. We live in a culture that simultaneously strongly promotes self denial and self indulgence. And so we tend to bounce back and forth between those without ever experiencing actual self care. And in spiritual communities, then we are often taught that, it is better to give than to receive, that sacrificing for others is what love and service looks like. And in social justice communities, then, we are often taught to martyr ourselves for the cause, that we can't rest or be happy or abundant because the world is fucked up and people are suffering. But what I have found is that working for the highest good can't really be at your own expense because you are part of the highest good. And making time for what brings you alive is what gives you the juice to be your best self and to do your important work in the world. And so if you are feeling knocked around by life, then perhaps it is because you are not at the center of your own life. So, do any of these sound familiar? Maybe you don't have a morning routine. So maybe you get out of bed and get pulled pretty immediately into the chaos and small urgent details of life and other people's needs and expectations for you. Maybe while you're peeing, then you're checking your texts and emails, maybe offering encouragement and reassurance to the people in your life, planning your day for how you're going to take care of your responsibilities. Maybe you shower and get right to work. Maybe you don't even have time to shower because you are already busy helping everyone else get ready for their day. And maybe you would like to do something calming and grounding, like meditation or yoga, and imagine that you will someday when your schedule is not so busy. So you're probably tired because you didn't get enough sleep, because you were busy taking care of your responsibilities and other people's needs before you went to bed, or you went to bed too late because you knew that you needed some downtime, and the only time that was available competed with your need for rest. And maybe you tell yourself, it's okay, I'll make up for it at another time. But that other time just rarely seems to materialize. So maybe it shows up in your self nourishment. Do you struggle to find the time to nourish yourself over the course of the day? Maybe you skip breakfast to get those extra moments of sleep. Maybe you choke down a protein bar on the way to work, or heat up a frozen dinner, or make a sandwich while checking emails or studying for class in the evening. And I know for myself, during my time as a college professor, I often didn't even have time to pee during the day, honestly. As I rushed from class to class, often literally sprinting across campus during the 10 minutes that I had in between classes. And so I often wouldn't eat anything for the day until around 5 p.m. When I would finally get back to my office. And then I would usually, absentmindedly devour whatever I had around or whatever I had brought for the day while grading papers, answering student emails, and planning for my next class. And maybe, on the other hand, food is one of the dysfunctional ways that you use to try to nurture yourself. Your justifiable reward for a busy and exhausting day of serving others. One of the ways that you try to fill yourself up, literally, to compensate for all of the ways that you give of yourself over the course of the day. And if you're a big giver, and it seems like a lot of the folks in this group are exactly that, then it is probably challenging for you to receive. So maybe you notice yourself habitually responding something like, "No, I'm okay." When people try to offer you help or support or reward, or maybe you habitually respond with, "Oh, you shouldn't have," or "That's not necessary." When people give you gifts or try to treat you or pay for you. So probably by the end of the day, then you're probably feeling pretty depleted from the lack of balance between what you're putting out and what you're receiving back. And if it doesn't feel safe or okay to receive from the people around you, then maybe you retreat to take care of yourself alone. I know this was my main strategy for a large number of years. Too exhausted to engage in anything productive. Yeah, maybe you put on Netflix, get a bag of chips or a favorite comfort food, and zone out for a while, giving yourself a mental break from having to worry about being there for others so that you could have a chance to decompress. And I know for myself, one of the ways that I survived the trauma of adolescence as a trans person was through food. So, I was lonely as an outcast. And so one of the ways that I tried to comfort myself was through overeating. And food was my friend, something that I could always count on since the people in my life were pretty unpredictable. And food was a way that I could stuff down all of my unhappy emotions, the loneliness and the confusion, the despair, the anxiety, and especially the rage about what was happening to me and the lack of support that I felt. And food was a way that I could disconnect from my body, that I could go unconscious and try to forget about all the ways that my body just didn't feel like me. And I didn't have any control over the changes that were happening in my body or the limitations of my social environment. But food was one area that I could exercise control. And so I frequently denied myself food as well, often starving myself while driving myself with compulsive exercise. I really trying to, bring a sense of order to ways that I felt out of control, directing that anger that I was feeling inwardly towards myself, which felt much safer than bringing it to the people in my environment, punishing myself for not being what others needed me to be, for not being what other people saw as normal, rejecting and abandoning the parts of me that felt powerless, that I felt disgusted by, to join the powerful chorus of voices in my head and outside of me that were critiquing and blaming me. And, how are you denying yourself other forms of nourishment as well that you might need? So maybe not making time for spiritual nourishment, such as spending time in nature, for instance. So is that one of the things that really feeds you, but you have trouble making time for it? Or not making time for creative expression, since I know we have a lot of artists and creative people in here. Maybe you're so focused on attending to the emotional needs of others that you don't give yourself the emotional nourishment that you need to be your best and happiest self. And maybe part of your prioritization of other people's needs over your own manifests like valuing other people's opinions over your own. I know for myself, I oftentimes led my life as though it was a consensus that I was just one of the voices in the decision-making process, but certainly not the only one, or not even necessarily the main one. So do you obsess over other people's critiques or assessments of you? Do you feel compelled to always explain yourself, what you were thinking, what you were intending, why you do what you do, or why you are how you are? Do you find yourself continually striving to please others or to try to prove yourself? So, the question underlying all these things is why? Why is your life this way? Why is it hard for you to prioritize your own needs? And what is going on in your relationship with yourself that makes it easier to put other people's needs first? Because if you don't address the why, then you can make small improvements in your self-care habits over time, but you will never really be free of that struggle. And so when you are ready to face the why and have some help in unraveling the effects on your life, so that you can chart your course from a whole new foundation, then private message me and let me know that you're ready. So culturally, January is just a really big time for self-improvement. And so there are many places that you can go for piecemeal, free or cheap tips and tools to make aspects of your life better. But in order to see lasting and foundational changes, then you really do need a powerful strategy for transformation, and one that is really custom designed for your particular challenges and struggles, and utilizing your particular gifts and skills, and one that requires your sincere commitment and significant investment on your part to match the level of healing and freedom that you would like to receive and create. And so that is what I have put together in my online course, Spiritual Empowerment for Gender Creative People. And so I'll be offering that in mid-January in the next session. And that is specifically designed to heal the particular traumas and challenges of gender expansive folks, and to cultivate the specific gifts and skills of gender creative people, to help folks to release any feelings of victimization, to be able to fully embrace ourselves as powerful leaders and teachers with important messages for society right now. I just got a thank you email, another thank you email from one of the folks who just is finishing up my course. So I just thought I would share that for a moment. And they said, in the midst of all of the changes that have been taking place in my life this year, having the open space of your course to reflect was cathartic and healing, to say the least. Ultimately, I have found that the single greatest gift of being vulnerable with yourself is that it opens the door for others to be vulnerable with you. That is, to reach a place of human connection that was previously unavailable, a place that I have been looking for. This is a concept that you illustrated in your course time and time again. And the refreshing thing was being able to connect so intimately with everyone as we all underwent personal journeys of vulnerability. I believe firmly that your course for many people is going to be their story of discovery. We are all going forth from this course with new clarity about how to co-create a society that values community, openness, love, and understanding. We may not know exactly what role we will have in it, but we have the tools, the framework, and the agency, all of which we would not have had if it were not for this course. So if you find yourself feeling drawn in this direction, or you see yourself as a part of this community, or if you have any questions about it, then reach out over a private message and let me know. And in the meantime, post in our group about whatever you are struggling with, and I'll do a Facebook Live about your issue. I see we have many folks who have joined, so welcome Tessa and Ernesto and Augusto and Colleen. Looks like, yes, Colleen saying this is so hard for healers. So if you have questions or comments now, I know I've been talking about a lot of various things, then go ahead and let me know now. I actually decided that I'm going to do another Facebook Live tomorrow, in line with the cultural season happening around us. And that is going to be about why New Year's resolutions don't work and how you can better approach creating a life that you love. So keep an eye out for that. And I'll do that in the earlier part of the day so that I don't interfere with people's evening celebrations. In the meantime, maybe contemplate, are you going to be sitting here at the end of 2019, still wrestling with the same issues? Or is 2019 going to be the year that you valued yourself enough to get some help, so that when December 2019 comes around, that you can finally be free of the issues and the dynamics that have been plaguing you, so that you can really lay the foundation for the life of your dreams and be your most empowered and influential self in transforming the culture around you. And for gender creative people, there are so many things that we have to do on our own that we don't have help for. And this is not one of them. And so if you feel like you're looking for help, then there is help. And so reach out. So, gosh, let me see if I could. Wow. Hey, Stacy and Angela. Someone to help with accountability. Yeah, that's also key. Especially, I talked about last time that so much about being a good leader is, the willingness to take that journey downward, to face your shadow and to face those places that you're stuck. And, that really does, that's a journey that really does take help. There are some folks who do that on their own. Many people have like a wake-up call on their own, but to really, get through to the other side, it really does take a companion and a guide, somebody who's been there, somebody who knows the way, somebody who can offer support and encouragement for the journey to keep going, because there's definitely times where, I've been there myself many, many times, where you're just stuck and you're just facing where you are stuck. And it is so painful, and there's just everything in you that just wants to give up. And even, having the hope that it can be different, even having the hope that there will be another side, can be really hard to maintain. during those places. And so it's really useful to have somebody who can, pull you to where they are when you get stuck, and to see that it is possible to be free of the things that maybe you've never been free from before, and to have an entire community of peers surrounding you who are also going through the same challenges and the same journey, to be able to provide one another support and encouragement and help, because we're not meant to do this alone, and we each have a piece of the puzzle, and we're meant to share those pieces with one another so that we have a better sense of the big picture. And one of the things that I mentioned in here previously is that, for gender creative people, it is so hard to find peers. I know for myself, I grew up without a peer group, and my whole entire life, one of the main challenges has been to find people who are peers. And so to have the opportunity to do that kind of deep personal work of freeing yourself from the ways that you have been domesticated by the dysfunctional beliefs of your culture, and the ways that you have been chained down by all of the traumas and hurts that you have experienced over your life, which I know for gender creative people, it's quite a long list. That it is really beautiful to have other folks to share that with, and other folks who really deeply understand not only what that is like, but how incredibly vulnerable it is, and to be able to transform, like to be an alchemist. So to be able to transform the shit of life, all of the traumas and challenges, into gold, into the special gifts and knowledge and skills that you have for the world. Because our greatest power tends to come from those challenges. But, so many times we get stuck in the challenges, and we don't actually get to the healing and the freedom and the power on the other side. And so that's what I'm here for. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm excited about this opportunity to step into a new journey in 2019. And so I'll be speaking more about that tomorrow and how we can best utilize that. So take good care of yourself tonight, and I'll look forward to checking in with you tomorrow. Okay, thanks.